Bleacher Report has predicted 2 blockbuster trades for the Washington Commanders that I'm going to be breaking down at the top of today's edition of the Commanders Report. Then the Athletics, Dane Brugler came out with a 7-round mock draft for your Washington Commanders. I'm going to be reacting to every single pick Dane Brugler made in that mock draft at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But tomorrow afternoon, Chat Sports is going to be having a 3-round live mock draft where we're going to be going live on all the top team channels here at Chat Sports, and we're going to be going through every single pick of the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, where our hosts are going to be making selections for their respective teams, and we will be going live here on the Commanders Report on Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and if you want to see who I select for the Burgundy and Gold in our 3-round mock draft, make sure you click that subscribe button and join us tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So the Bleacher Report trade targets here for the Washington Commanders is none other than Trey Hendrickson, the edge rusher out of Cincinnati that we've been talking about quite a bit on this channel. But then also Jaire Alexander, the cornerback from the Green Bay Packers. We got a bunch of stuff to break down with these 2 players specifically. So let's break down the first trade proposal here from Bleacher Report, where they have the Commanders landing Trey Hendrickson and a 6th-round pick this year, 193rd overall, in exchange for a 2nd-round pick this year. Not even a 1st-round pick, just a 2nd-round pick, number 61 overall, and a 5th-round pick in next year's NFL draft to get the NFL's sack leader in 2024. This is what Moe Moton from Bleacher Report had to say about this trade idea. With $23.6 million in cap space, Cincinnati should be able to get a deal done with Hendrickson unless his contract demands far exceed the team's financial threshold. These Bengals the Bengals might take an edge with the 17th overall pick in the upcoming draft. If that happens, Cincinnati could make phone calls right after its 1st-round pick. Cincinnati should call the Washington Commanders. The Commanders lost their 2024 sack leader, Dante Fowler Jr., who went back to the Dallas Cowboys in free agency. Washington's top remaining edge rushers, Dorrance Armstrong and Clelin Ferrell, combined for 8.5 sacks last year. If the Commanders acquire Hendrickson, he would be their top pass rusher and give them a much-needed boost on the edge. Washington finished 14th in pressure rate at 22.6% last season. So listen, man, I think that this trade and this trade idea, getting Trey Hendrickson, who is an absolute sack artist, for less than a 1st-round pick is an absolute steal for the Washington Commanders. You guys can take a look at the production that Hendrickson has put up over the last several seasons, 17.5 sacks in each of the last 2 seasons. He also forces some fumbles, collects the TFLs, which is something that he is certainly known to do as well. And I think that, he's very stout on the edge. He can be an every down edge rusher, can defend the run, do all the things that you want your number 1 guy to do. And I think another added benefit to trading for Trey Hendrickson, and why I want this to happen so bad, is because Hendrickson appears to not really be seeking Myles Garrett's number of $40+ million per season. He told the Pat McAfee show that he's not really looking to be the highest paid this or the highest paid that. He just wants to get what's fair for him. And I think what he probably views as fair is around what Danielle Hunter got with the Houston Texans. He got $35.6 million per season. I would be guessing he's asking for just a little bit more than that. So the projected contract extension would be 3 years, $35.7 million per season. And my take on potentially going out and getting Trey Hendrickson to add him to this roster here, I think that this is a potential move that could take this offseason that has been a little bit underwhelming. There's been some moves I've really liked, but there's also been some things that I haven't loved. I would currently probably rank this offseason as like a B to B minus, but if you can get Trey Hendrickson to be your new number 1 edge rusher, to me, that completely switches things to like an A offseason for me for GM Adam Peters and the Washington Commanders. So now let's shift to another trade idea here from Bleacher Report, where they have Jaire Alexander, one of the best true press man corners in the National Football League, going to the Washington Commanders here in exchange for a 4th-round pick being sent to the Green Bay Packers. This is what Mitch Milani from Bleacher Report had to say about this idea. I think they'd be willing to make this move because they are desperately need another corner. They've already traded for Debo. They've already traded for Laramie Tunsil. Why not one more trade? Then he continues on here and says they won with an underwhelming defense, so they want to maximize every opportunity to keep going on the upward trajectory. Now, when I look at a guy like Jaire Alexander, I think that he is exactly the type of cornerback that Dan Quinn and Joe Whitt Jr., the defensive coordinator here in Washington, absolutely love. He's a shit talker. He gets in your face. He's super physical. And he's somebody that if he's on your team, you absolutely love. But if he's not on your team, you definitely hate. All right. So he's definitely somebody that brings that dog mentality to the field every single Sunday. He is getting up there in age, 28 years old. He brings some good size. But, for that size, being under 200 pounds, he's really physical in man coverage. And that's exactly what Dan Quinn and Joe Whitt Jr. like. They like players that are aggressive like this. But the downside to getting a guy like Jaire Alexander is that he's only played more than 7 games in a season just once in the last 4 years. So he's somebody that's injured a lot. He's a bit injury prone. But when he's on the field, he's one of the best cornerbacks in all of football. You can take a look at his career Pro Football Focus grading and where he ranks among NFL cornerbacks, consistently ranking in the top 25 or so corners in the league. He's never ranked below the top 30, and the only time that he was outside the top 25 was when he was a rookie back in 2018. So when he's on the field, he is absolutely excellent. In fact, he was the number 1 graded corner in all of football out of 121 eligible players back in 2020 during the COVID season. And, when I look at teams that could potentially take on the injury risk that comes along with Jaire Alexander, I do think the Washington Commanders are one of those teams that potentially fit here, because you bring in a guy like Jonathan Jones in free agency to replace guys like Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes and all the different players that they tried out at outside corner last year. You still have Mike Samerstill, and they still really believe in Marshawn Lattimore. But, if you can add another guy to this rotation like Jaire Alexander, you got 2 ideal corners for this defense. And then Jonathan Jones, he's slated to be a starter for this team this year, but they didn't really pay him all that much. It's a short-term deal on just $5.5 million owed to him this year. So if they end up trading for Jaire Alexander, I still think that, Jonathan Jones can be used as a nice nickel player. He can be used as a dime backer. You can move him around in different ways. And it also injury-proofs the secondary, because you can put Jones wherever an injury kind of pops up throughout the season. And if someone like Marshawn Lattimore isn't up to snuff, then you can certainly, shift pieces around throughout the season to make sure that once the playoffs comes around, you are completely solid at this position. That has been a big issue for this defense for many years at this point. And hey, if Jaire Alexander is on the table for the Washington Commanders, could Jalen Ramsey be as well? I can't necessarily count it out. The Commanders are among the betting favorites to land the Dolphin corner that's now on the trade block. So, keep your eye on a potential corner trade, especially if the Commanders can trade maybe their 4th-round pick for one of these top corners, because this is a win-now football team. They could certainly add another veteran presence on the outside at the cornerback position. And there's 2 guys that are definitely available via trade right now that can help this team win football games. So listen, man, if you made both of these trades, and by the way, it is feasible, you're just trading a 2nd-round pick this year and then your 4th-round pick this year, I'm just going to warn you, it's going to be a boring draft, all right? You're pretty much trading away, rookie players, young talent, developmental talent for established talent that's going to help you win right now. I mean, if these trades came to fruition, you only have your round 1 pick, your round 6 pick, and your round 7 pick. So if that ends up being the case, definitely expect a trade down from the Washington Commanders to get some more draft capital, maybe even trade down a couple of times to get some more to get more draft capital during the NFL draft this year. But in exchange for all the draft picks that you've given up this offseason, you'd be adding these 4 players. Deebo Samuel, a great Swiss Army knife that's a great fit in Cliff Kingsbury's offense with all the motions and all the different stuff that he likes to do. Laramie Tunsil to protect Jaden Daniels' blind side, super important right there. Trey Hendrickson to be your sack artist on the defensive side of the ball, something this team really didn't have last year. And then Jaire Alexander to pair with Marshawn Lattimore on the outside, creating potentially a really dangerous duo at cornerback for the Washington Commanders and allowing Mikey Samerstill to play where he's most comfortable, which is in the nickel for this defense moving forward. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Would you be cool trading for both Trey Hendrickson and Jaire Alexander? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Game Time. And while I'm talking about Game Time today, simply give me a yes or a no at the top of the comment section. And with that, Let's have word from our sponsor today at Game Time. And the NBA playoffs are getting started. And if you want to experience the energy and the stakes of playoff basketball, you can get great seats at guaranteed low prices with our friends at Game Time today. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier on any ticket you get to any event. And you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And even to get hard to get playoff tickets, prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. The New York Knicks have locked up their spot in the NBA playoffs this year, and you can experience their playoff run in the weeks to come from historic Madison Square Garden in New York City. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So now let's get into the lead NFL draft analyst from The Athletic, Dane Brugler, who came out with his 7-round Commanders mock draft earlier today. And he's got some very interesting picks for the Burgundy and Gold. So let's dive right in. With the first pick for the Washington Commanders at number 29 overall on night one, he has the Commanders taking wide receiver out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. Now, the more I think about the wide receiver position with the Washington Commanders, guys, the more I'm actually cool with the idea of taking one relatively early in the NFL draft. Because when you take a look at this wide receiver room for the Commanders heading into the year, you got Terry McLaurin, who's a bona fide alpha. Then you got Deebo Samuel, who's not much of a route runner. Didn't have a lot of great film last year, but I think he's a great Swiss Army knife chess piece. And then you got Noah Brown, who's okay, but he's not phenomenal. Definitely not a long-term piece. And then Luke McCaffrey, who I think has a limited skill set, but he can be a contributor, I guess. But no one that's really sticking out as like a true route-running type of wide receiver too. And I think that is a piece that the Washington Commanders can certainly add to this offense to aid Jaden Daniels heading into his second season. And there's going to be some good wide receivers that the Commanders can potentially draft in the first round this year. These are the 5 guys I would consider in round 1 if I were Adam Peters. Tedorora McMillan, if he somehow falls to you, which seems extremely unlikely. I don't think he gets past Seattle at 18. Matthew Golden, I don't think he gets outside, the top 23 or so. Jaden Higgins is one to keep your eye on. I would love Higgins in this offense. Then you got Luther Burden III, who's kind of falling down draft boards right now, but he is a dynamic talent with the ball in his hands in space. I think Cliff Kingsbury could really do some fun things with him. Then Emeka Egbuka, who's super solid, a legitimate number 2 receiver, ready to go out of the package. That reminds me a lot of Jackson Smith and Jigba. You can put him in the slot. You can put him outside. He's a phenomenal route runner. He's really good after the catch. He's got some good size to be able to run block. I think that Emeka Egbuka's got some really good things in his profile, but you can also make the argument here that you can get a good wide receiver on day 2 or even early day 3 of the NFL draft. So if you wanted to use your second-round pick or your fourth-round pick on some of these mid-round wide receiver prospects, you're not looking for a true future number 1 here, right? You have Terry McLaurin. You're probably going to get that contract extension done before the end of the offseason. So maybe they want to go out and get a different position in round 1. But if they do end up taking Emeka Egbuka in round 1, I will have 0 complaints. Then we get to round 2 here, where Brugler has the Commanders taking somebody that the Commanders have shown a lot of interest in here. Oluwafemi Oladejo, the edge rusher out of UCLA. He's got a great cross chop, which is like the most unstoppable move an edge rusher can perfect. Another UCLA Bruin last year, Leatu Latu, also had that cross chop. So whoever's coaching edge rushers there with the Bruins is doing a hell of a job. But Oladejo is new to the position. He just converted to edge rusher last year, but he showed some great things. He's got long arms. He's got a great physical profile, and the Commanders really seem to like him. And I'm cool with this pick, man, because you need a pass rushing specialist. Now, I think there's a lot of pressure on Oladejo day 1 to be your designated pass rusher and, replace Dante Fowler's like 10.5 sacks that he had last year. But I think that he's got the physical profile not only to be your designated pass rusher on pass-heavy downs, early on in his career, but he's also got the physical capabilities to eventually become a 3-down starter once he develops his run defense a little bit more. So I think he's a really good player And I think that the Commanders really, really want him. So I think that they would be willing to take him as early as round 2. So this is certainly something I could see happening for the Burgundy and Gold. Then in round 4, Brugler has the team taking DJ Giddens, running back out of Kansas State. Another pick that I like here, all right? I think that Giddens is one of my favorite mid-round running backs in this entire class. He's high cut. He is tall. But for a taller guy, he's got some wiggle, man. His ability to make a guy miss at the second level, and then he's got 4.4 speed to be able to break away and have really big-time runs, home run caliber runs. You know, if you're looking at this running back room right now, and you got Brian Robinson Jr., who's a free agent next year, Austin Eckler, who's a free agent next year and is probably getting towards the end of his career. Do you really see Chris Rodriguez Jr. or Jeremy McNichols becoming full-time starters with this team? I would say no. You got to start planning for the future of this position. And, you know, Giddens, I think, is somebody that can help this team win right away. You know, I think that his ability to make that one cut and run is really, really good. I think he can make people miss in space, and I think he's got really good long speed. So at the end of the day here, if they end up taking Giddens in round 4, I think that will be an absolute steal for this football team. Then in round 6, at pick number 205, Brugler has the Commanders taking captain for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, my Irish here, Jack Kaiser. And I love Kaiser, man. Watching him play every single Saturday was an absolute blast. You know, everybody that you talk to in the Notre Dame organization and kind of program talk about this kid's leadership and character, and I would love the value here as well. He's a really good tackler. You know, he's not special as an athlete, but, you know, right now you got Frankie Louvu, and you still got Bobby Wagner, but Wagner's certainly getting older. If you're looking for somebody to replace his leadership in the locker room, maybe even take his spot as the true Mike linebacker in this defense, I think that Kaiser has a chance to do that. Now, I don't think he gets on the field too much in year 1 because you have Louvu, you have Wagner, and then you have Jordan McGee, who he took in the middle to late rounds last year as kind of an undersized coverage linebacker. But he's somebody that, you know, a full year of development behind Bobby Wagner, who knows how good he could become. Then in round 7, Brugler has the Commanders taking a center/guard here in Jonah Mannheim out of USC. And this is the only pick I really don't love here, guys. Now, Mannheim played under Cliff Kingsbury when he was there in that short stint. He was with the USC Trojans as the QB's coach 2 seasons ago, so there's that little bit of connection there. But this is the only pick I don't love here, guys, because, you know, he doesn't have a great ability to anchor, and he's got super short arms. So I think that the bull rush is really going to be a problem for him in the NFL. He's got some really great foot quickness, and he can be a great fit for like an outside zone running scheme. It's just the Commanders don't really run that stuff. So I don't think that I would trust him. I honestly wouldn't love this pick, but hey, it's a round 7 pick, so it's pretty much a throwaway pick anyway. So grade Brugler's mock draft for me down there in the comments section. Give me an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. Only 5 picks. But you get Ibuka, you get Oladejo, you get DJ Giddens, you get some good players in this mock draft. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. For me personally, I'm going to give it a B+. All right? And the reason why I'm giving it a B+ and not a higher grade is A, you know, there's not a whole lot of picks here in the first place. So it limits the overall value you can get. But my gripe overall with the mock is that there's nobody in the secondary that gets taken here. And, you know, I think that when you look at the safety rooms and you look at the cornerback rooms, there needs to be somebody that's added to at least one of these groups before the end of the NFL draft, at least in my opinion. You got to get younger. You got to, you know, do all these different things to make sure that you're replenishing the ranks year in and year out in the secondary. And, of course, you need to have depth in case there's injuries. So the fact that there's no corners and no safeties taken by Dane Brugler in this mock draft and you're taking a running back when you already have Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, I think that's a little bit disappointing to me. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. That'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And until next time, guys, go raise some hail.